Good afternoon, everyone. Volker Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, said that today marks a grim milestone for the world, with 40,000 Palestinian lives officially confirmed to have been lost, according to Gaza's health ministry. Most of the dead are women and children. This unimaginable situation, he said, is overwhelmingly due to recurring failures by the Israeli Defense Forces to comply with the rules of war. Mr. Turk said that on average, about 130 people have been killed every day in Gaza over the past 10 months. He added that the Human Rights Office has documented serious violations of international humanitarian law by both the Israeli military and Palestinian armed groups, including the armed wing of Hamas. The full press release is online. Meanwhile, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says that hostilities and recurrent evacuation orders are driving a seemingly endless cycle of displacement and making it increasingly difficult for people to access the humanitarian assistance they need to survive after 10 months of war. To give an example of the conditions in which people live now in Gaza, our teams were able to access 2 sites in Khan Yunis today. In addition to the difficulties getting to markets, the lack of food and high prices, families explained to our colleagues that due to the absence of cleaning and hygiene products, they're getting skin infections, particularly affecting their children. They had to make their own shelter with whatever fabric, pieces of wood, or cartons they found. Children are attacked by rodents and insects at night due to poor shelter conditions.
I think your microphone is off.
The light is on. Hello? Hello?
It sounded weird, no?
It did?
Yeah.
It's good back here. They just stopped the speaker.
Oh, they stopped the speaker. That ain't me.
Sorry.
All right. To continue, they had to make their own shelter with whatever fabric, pieces of wood, or cartons they found. Children are attacked by rodents and insects at night due to poor shelter conditions, and yet they might need to leave again and start all over again. This morning at the Security Council, Hans Grunberg, the Special Envoy of the Secretary General for Yemen, told council members that he counts on their full support for his efforts regarding the resumption of an inclusive Yemeni-led political transition. On the region's situation, Mr. Grunberg said that the Middle East is currently holding its breath, but he sincerely hopes that the escalatory trajectory witnessed in the past months can be reversed. Lisa Doughton, OCHA's Director of Financing and Partnership Division, also briefed the Council. She said that the UN continues efforts to secure the release of our detained colleagues and is in frequent contact with the Houthi de facto authorities and others towards this end. On the situation on the ground, Ms. Doughton said that over the past 10 days, heavy rainfall and flash flooding hit several governorates in Yemen, damaging homes, farms, and public infrastructure. Food security in Yemen also continues to deteriorate, and as of the beginning of this month, the number of suspected cholera cases across the country has swelled to more than 147,000. She warned that a lack of adequate funding continues to undermine our efforts to address critical needs across Yemen. Turning to Syria, the resident and humanitarian coordinator there, Adam Abdul Mullah, and the regional humanitarian coordinator for the Syria crisis, Ramanathan Balakrishnan, issued a statement yesterday voicing deep concern over recent violence in the governorates of Deir ez-Zor and Al-Hasakeh in the northeast of the country and its impact on the already serious humanitarian situation there. Since August 6th, violence in Deir ez-Zor has led to at least 25 civilian deaths, with several hundred people having been displaced. The closure of all crossings along the Euphrates River in Deir ez-Zor, along with the fighting, have restricted access to healthcare, water, and food, driving up the already high prices. Meanwhile, in Al-Hasakeh Governorate, restrictions on movement in some parts of the governorate have disrupted access to water and food services, which benefit over 100,000 people, though there have been recent encouraging reports of renewed access there. Mr. Abdul Mullah and Mr. Balakrishna call on all parties to take every measure to protect civilians, civilian infrastructure, and humanitarian operations, and to ensure immediate, safe, unimpeded and sustained humanitarian access must be ensured for all those in need throughout Syria. This also comes as the humanitarian response in Syria remains severely underfunded. Less than a quarter, or $983 million, of the $4.1 billion appeal for 2024 has been received. In response to questions about the issuing of the interim report of the panel of electoral experts concerning Venezuela, I would like to recall that the document was made public under the authority of the Secretary General as a normal procedure in line with our transparency policy. The Secretary General reiterates his call for transparency and encourages publication of the election results and a breakdown by polling station. The panel continues to follow the technical aspects of the coming remaining phases of the electoral process as per its terms of reference and will provide a final report to the Secretary General. The UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization today released a report showing that because of bans imposed by the de facto authorities, 1.4 million Afghan girls have been deliberately deprived of schooling in Afghanistan. According to the report, access to primary education has also fallen sharply, with 1.1 million fewer girls and boys attending school. UNESCO notes that 3 years after the de facto authorities took power, Afghanistan stands out as the only country in the world where secondary and higher education is strictly forbidden to girls and women. The report points out that if we add the girls who are already out of school before the bans were introduced, there are now almost 2.5 million girls in the country deprived of their right to education, representing 80% of Afghan school-age girls. The report adds that the figures are also very concerning in higher education, with a decrease by 53% of the number of students enrolled in universities since 2021. UNESCO warns that as a result, the country will rapidly face a shortage of graduates trained for the most highly skilled jobs, which will only exacerbate development problems. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our peacekeeping colleagues have deployed a mobile operating base in Chomia, 30 kilometers southeast of Bunia, in Ituri province, in response to recent attacks that have resulted in civilian casualties. The mission also dispatched patrols toward a site for internally displaced persons in Loda to protect civilians. This follows alerts received by the mission of the presence of Kodako combatants in the area, which have triggered temporary displacement of civilians. And you will have seen the announcement made by the World Health Organization yesterday, in which it determined that the surge of Mpox in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and a growing number of countries in Africa constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. WHO is warning also about the potential of this Mpox virus to spread further across countries in Africa and possibly outside the continent. To allow for an immediate scale-up, WHO has released $1.45 million from the WHO Contingency Fund for emergencies. It may need to release more in the coming days. The health agency, however, anticipates an immediate funding requirement of an initial $15 million to support surveillance, preparedness, and response activities, and is working with countries and vaccine manufacturers on potential vaccine donations. The organization appeals to donors to fund the full extent of needs of the Mpox response. That's it from me, and after I'm done, you will hear from Monica Villela-Grayley, the spokesperson for the President of the General Assembly. Before we get to her, yes, Edie.
Thank you, Farhan. Does the Secretary General have any comment on Russia's jailing of a dual U.S.-Russian citizen for 12 years for donating $52 to Ukraine?
These reports are concerning to us, and we express our hope that due process will be followed rigorously in the Russian Federation.
And a second question on renewed protests and violence in Bangladesh, this time by the student protesters at attempts to commemorate the death of Bangladesh's independence leader, who happens to be the father of the prime minister who left the country. Does the Secretary General have any comment on these protests?
Our comment is essentially the same as what we've been saying for the previous protests, that we encourage the right to peaceful protest to be respected by all, and we call on security forces to ensure that no one engaging in peaceful protest is harmed. Pam?
Thanks, Farhan. On the mpox or monkeypox, is there anything the UN is doing for UN headquarters? In other words, I understand you usually follow New York City protocol, but with UNGA coming up, is there any requirement for vaccinations, or are you doing anything? Thanks.
There's no requirement in this country. The countries that are being affected are mostly the ones in Central and Eastern Africa, and you can see the WHO website for more details.
No, but I'm sorry, that wasn't my question, because there are quite a few cases in the United States as well. Is the Secretariat doing anything separate and apart?
No, we're following the guidelines of the host country.
Thank you.
Yes, Amelie.
Thanks, Farhan. A follow-up on Yemen. After the Human Rights Office was seized in Sana'a and the arrest of the aid workers, the Yemeni government suggested the UN to move its headquarters and all its main bases from Sana'a to Aden. Is it something that the UN is considering? Thank you.
At this stage, I don't have any relocations to talk about. What we are stressing, again, is the inviolability of UN premises and the need for the authorities, the de facto authorities in the northern part, to respect that. Deji?
Yes, we just heard the statement from Mr. Turk on the pass of the number 40,000 deaths in Gaza. What does the Secretary General's message on this number?
Well, he shares the concerns of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, but of course we're also aware that that this number is an approximation, and given the large number and disturbing number of people who remain unaccounted for, who may be trapped or dead under the rubble, this number may, if anything, be an undercount. From the Secretary General's standpoint, this is yet another reason why we need to have a ceasefire now, as well as the release of all hostages and unimpeded humanitarian assistance.
Speaking of ceasefire, there's this negotiation ongoing in Doha, which reportedly that Hamas did not really participate because they said they lose faith. What does the Secretary General's expectation of this new round of negotiation?
Well, we continue to hope that these talks and the role played by the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt will be helpful, and we continue to reiterate the call, again, as I've said, for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire.
Just a follow-up. If the ceasefire deal reached, would UN support a permanent ceasefire, or should there be a term that this conflict can be resumed?
We're aware that this is something that the parties are discussing, and we urge them to go the extra mile to actually reach an agreement on a ceasefire.
So it's fine that the war can be resumed?
No, that's not what I've said. I said that what we want is for these negotiations to be successful. I'm not going to impede them with anything I say from here. Yes, Benno.
No, I'm fine, sorry.
Okay.
Just answer.
Okay. Abdelhamid?
Thank you, Farhan. So the SG did not issue a statement about the 40,000 Palestinians killed. He found it is not necessary to issue a separate statement marking the number 40,000 Palestinians killed.
To be honest, Abdelhamid, we believe that that number has, in all likelihood, been crossed probably weeks or months ago. We don't put out statements for each time we go across a number, but we do express our concerns about the violence regularly, and he has done so.
Okay. I want to ask you about a certain incident, if you heard of it. This is the picture
I cannot possibly see
of
that. from here.
4-day-old twins, Asir and Asil, along with their mother, Dr. Jumana, and their grandmother, were killed by an Israeli missile 2 days ago. Have you heard the story?
No.
What do you say to that?
We've heard the story, and it's heartbreaking. And this isn't the first, or really even the 10th or 20th heartbreaking story we've heard. This happens every so often and every few days, and this is why the war needs to stop. Gabriel?
Thank you, Farhan. Has the Secretary General been briefed so far today on the talks that are taking place in Doha, and if so, by whom?
He is keeping in touch with anyone who can shed more light on this. I'm aware, for example, that the Special Coordinator, Tor Venislan, continues to monitor the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations, and Mr. Venisland is also in contact with all relevant parties, and he's been reiterating the need to urgently reach a deal and the UN's own commitment to support all efforts towards that goal.
And in Volker Turk's statement that you read at the beginning, he said the unimaginable situation in Gaza is overwhelmingly due to the recurring failures by the Israeli Defense Forces to comply with the rules of war. Does the Secretary General agree with that?
He supports the words of the Human Rights Commissioner. Let's go to the screens first, and then we'll go back into the room. Mushfiq.
Thank you, Farhan. What is the Secretary General's view on the fact-finding mission from the UN, which is set to visit Bangladesh next week to investigate atrocities and killings resulting from the former dictator Sheikh Hasina's shoot-on-sight order earlier this month?
We'll have to see what the work of the group is. At this stage, I don't have any comment on them.
One more, Farhan, one more, please. I'm wondering if the Secretary General will engage more with Bangladesh to support the country's stability, considering that the current head of the interim government, Professor Muhammad Yunus, is someone the UN views as a partner. Meanwhile, the former Prime Minister is spreading misinformation and lies from the neighboring India and inciting violence.
Regarding what you said about support for Bangladesh, I can certainly confirm that we remain willing to support the government and people of Bangladesh as needed. Edie.
Just a follow-up to Gabriel's question. Is Tor Venisland in Jerusalem, in Israel, or has he traveled to anywhere in the region?
He is not traveling in the region right now, but if I have more to announce about his travels, we'll let you know at that point. Yes.
I had basically the same question. My question would have been, where is Tor Venisland? Because when you say like he is in touch with all the parties in Doha, I assume he's not in Doha, right?
I believe he's been in contact with them by phone. Like I said, when we have travels by Mr. Venisland to announce, we'll let you know at that point.
And concerning the negotiations, does the UN have any eyes or ears in the rooms where it happens, or will you just go with the parties that negotiate?
Oh, we are in touch with the negotiating parties, and that's what we're going to do. All right. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Farhan. Any updates on Kursk?
On who?
Kursk region in Russia.
I don't have anything to say on that for today. All right, Gabriel?
Thank you. Can I just follow up? When you say you're in contact with negotiating parties, does that include Israel and Hamas?
I believe through all of our personnel, including Mr. Venisland, yes, we're in touch with all of the, at different levels with all of the various parties.
Thank you.
Thanks. Monica, up to you.
Thank you so much, Farhan. Very nice to see you all today. I have 3 notes for you, and one is for your diary. So let's start. The President of the General Assembly, Mr. Dennis Francis, published a video announcing a 40-day mark until the Summit of the Future, which will be held on 22nd and 23rd September in the GA Hall. The PGA said that the high-level event is our chance to forge a multilateral system that tackles global challenges, turbocharges the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and fosters solidarity and unity against the backdrop of political instability and multiple crises. Mr. Francis highlighted that the adoption of an action-oriented pact for the future by world leaders will set the stage for accelerated action on sustainable development, peace, technology, and innovation. Also, global governance for the benefit of all, including youth and future generations. The PGA believes that the Pact for the Future will also be our roadmap to a peaceful, sustainable, and resilient world and a brighter future for all, leaving no one behind. And for the video and for more information, you can go to the PGA's YouTube page, which is www.youtube.com/@UNPGA78. And we will continue on preparations for the high-level week, the list of speakers for the high-level plenary meeting of the General Assembly to commemorate the International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons was opened earlier today. The event will take place on 26th of September in the Trusteeship Council Chamber at 9 a.m. in the morning. In a letter to member states, the President of the General Assembly, Mr. Dennis Francis, informed that delegations wishing to deliver statements can inscribe on the list of speakers online. The time limit for statements will be 3 minutes for individual delegations and 5 minutes for statements on behalf of group of states, and head of government. Of course, will be given priority on the list, which will be determined on a first-come, first-served basis. And the opening segment will hear remarks on that day from the PGA and the Secretary General, followed by statements by delegations. The second part of the meeting from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. will include remarks by delegations and also representatives of civil society. The International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons has been observed since 2014, so this is the 10th year, right? And last but not least, for tomorrow, the 16th of August, the President of the General Assembly will deliver remarks at an event to celebrate the International Youth Day 2024. The actual day, you know, is celebrated on the 12th of August each year. So the commemoration is being organized by the AFS, Intercultural Programs, in collaboration with UN agencies and the Permanent Mission of Malta to the United Nations. This year, the theme is empowering young persons to foster peace and security for global citizenship, which aligns with the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda and reflects on progress since the adoption of Resolution 2250 by the Security Council in 2015, which recognizes youth as agents of positive change. The PGA will deliver remarks alongside the Director of the Youth Assembly, AFS, Ms. Yuma Khan, and Mr. Philippe Paulieu, Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs, will participate via video link. And youth leaders and activists from across the globe, including Ms. Lamar Zalagran, an activist from Afghanistan. The event will take place from 4 to 6 p.m. in Conference Room 4, and it will be webcast. So this is everything we have for today. Do you have anything else here on the screen? Gabriel, how are you?
Hi, welcome back, Monica.
Thank you so much. How are you?
Good, thank you. Earlier this month, the OIOS completed its investigation into the allegations against UNRWA. That report is complete. It's my understanding that any member state can request a copy of that report. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, that's correct. And then the report was completed. The conclusions and the outcome are there. And, of course, member states have access to the report. Absolutely.
And a quick follow-up to that is, would the PGA be informed if a member state requests that report or not?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
So member states are free and sovereign to go there and ask for the... But the PGA, of course, took note of the completion of this investigation. And you will also recall that he was also briefed by Ms. Colonna when the first investigation was concluded. So he's fully aware of what is going on.
So just to be clear, he doesn't have to sign off on the report being released to any member state, right?
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Hey, how are you, Hamid?
How are you, Sadiqati?
Yeah, good to see you.
The PGA worked hard on the Summit of the Future, which will be held 22nd, 23rd, but he will not be the president at the time.
No,
What-
it's the new PGA.
What role he would play in that summit?
Oh, I mean, his role is crucial in the preparation of the summit, right? Because you are aware that all the high-level events during the high-level week are prepared by the PGA, the current PGA, and of course the incoming PGA, who, by the time of these events taking place, will be the PGA in question, or the current PGA. So our team, the OPJ, the current OPJ's colleagues are working non-stop, round the clock, to make it happen. It's a very important event, and as a matter of fact, I just left the office, and he was having a meeting with our colleagues and his advisors on the Summit of the Future. So it's the full preparation is in the hands of this PGA, in cooperation, collaboration, of course, because the incoming PGA is being briefed, and his doors, I mean the PGA doors, Dennis Francis doors, are open to all who need some support. Yeah. Benno, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine. And then I have Amélie after you. Yeah?
Okay. About the Summit of the Future as well, I guess you guys are also in charge of the guest list. To my knowledge, for the United States, Kamala Harris was supposed to come to New York for this. Is that still what you assume what will happen next month?
Yeah, on the guest list, we will be, well, the guest list will be, speakers list, I would say, will be published next month. The list is still being compiled, and we will have more information for you next month, okay? As soon as we can give you the information. Amélie, the same question. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's good synchronization. Yes, go ahead, Pam.
Thank you. Same question, variation. Right now, do you have Kamala Harris as the speaker for the United States? And that's number one. And I know you're saying you don't. And on outcome documents, there seem to be three: the Pact for the Future, Declaration of Future Generations, and Global Digital Compact. Are those the three that will be negotiated?
Yes, they are all they are in full negotiation, and.
But you expect those to be sort of in final form for voting by the time of the summit?
Yeah, the GA will take action, of course, and will be getting all the action that will be taken, of course, during the high-level week. But when you asked about the first question, we circulated the provisional list of speakers that we have here from July, so everybody received. If you don't, come see me. And what we have here for the United States is the head of state. So if there is any updating on this, we will, of course, let you know, okay?
That's for the high-level week.
Correct.
U.S., but
you're talking about the Summit of the Future.
Yes.
The Summit of the Future, the list hasn't been finalized.
Okay.
As soon as we have it, we'll let you know. Okay. Hamid, you want to speak again?
Yeah.
And Edie. Okay, good. Go ahead.
On Monday.
Go ahead.
On Monday at 11:30, there will be a ceremony to commemorate the bombing of the UN headquarters in Baghdad. August
the 9th of August, yes.
19, 2003. Will the PGA be in attendance?
Yeah, the PGA also recorded a video for that day. He will be joining the SG and all colleagues in this house to mark this tragic day in 2003. We all remember when we lost our colleagues in Baghdad, including the head of the mission, the Brazilian UN official Sérgio Vieira de Mello, and of course it will be a sad day, a day of remembrance in this house, where we are going to pay tribute to our colleagues. Absolutely, Edie, and after Edie, I'll go to the screen. Okay, go ahead.
On the Summit of the Future, will the documents being put to world leaders for adoption be put to them at the start of the Summit of the Future or at some later point?
We don't have this information yet, but as soon as we get it, I'll bring it to you, okay? Thank you. If we don't have anyone on the screen,
Yes.
I would say we do. So, hey, how are you? Yeah, you have the mic.
how are
Go
you?
ahead. I'm fine, thank you.
How are you, Monica?
I'm fine, thank you. Good to see you. Go ahead.
Nice to see you. Can you please share the PG's thoughts on the new interim government in Bangladesh under the leadership of the Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus, whom the UN considers a partner?
The PJ has his doors open for the new government and to continue to work with Bangladesh. And this is everything I have to say at the moment. Thank you. So, anyone else? If not, I would say wonderful. Thank you. I see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we continue. Thanks. Bye.